Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, powered by Brady. This is your front row seat to the stories of local leaders, both nonprofit and for-profit, who are shaping our community. Every episode brings you leadership insights, lessons from challenges, and practical strategies you can use today. And yes, we'll keep it real and have some fun along the way. If you're ready to elevate your leadership, hit subscribe and follow us on LinkedIn for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Now, let's dive in.
Jason Holm here with the Elevate Podcast powered by Brave. And I tell you, I'm excited for this episode. There is a person in the studio here with me that I've known a long time. I have learned a lot of things from this guy. We've talked about planes, bourbon, green shoes, business, kids, fun, all that kind of stuff over the years. But this episode is going to be awesome. And so, Brian, maybe introduction for yourself?
Yeah, sure, of course. So Brian Wolff. Current job is I happen to be the president of a company called Parker Technology. I'm sure we'll get into that.
He's
Born and raised in Michigan, but we've been in Indianapolis 23 of the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Jill and I moved to, I think we counted it 7 times in 15 years. And then Indianapolis has been home. So it's like Indianapolis. It is definitely home. And it's home for us. Yeah.
So originally from Michigan, and what parts of the state?
St. Joe, Michigan. So right on the lake. Yeah. And went to school in Ann Arbor. Go blue. Go blue.
At St. Joe, what, the Silver Beach? Or yeah, it was a little bit sure. Cute little town. Yeah. I guess I forgot you were from St. Joe. That's child's name. Okay.
Yep. Great place to grow up. The beach was 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
But she grew up in a small town, Chimel High School, country bumpkin, and then went to big Michigan and,
So why Ann Arbor? Why was it just, because you could have gone to Michigan State, could have gone anywhere you wanted, I'm sure, coming out of high school. So why pick Big Blue?
Yeah, so 2 things. The first was my girlfriend at the time was going to Michigan State. Okay, so my sister went to Michigan, and so I made a pact with myself. I don't think I actually published this. It may be the first time, but if anybody's heard this,
okay,
right? So I applied to both schools.
All right,
and I said the school that accepts me first that's where I'm going. Right now, this would never happen today because I'm not sure I'm smart enough to get into Michigan today. But they accepted me in 7 days.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So how weak I got an acceptance back. Now, this was back in 1985, so when their standards were way more lax. So
they were letting anybody in, right? So you're from the state of Michigan, you got a heartbeat, somebody can pay, I'm in, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so this was 85. So Michigan comes back to you first. You're going to Michigan, but your girlfriend at the time goes to Michigan State.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming she didn't turn out her name was a Jill, right? I'm kidding. Correct, yeah. So no.
Although Jill did go to Michigan State.
So okay,
yeah, and so all right, we are a house divided in our house. Yeah, they had a Michigan State, Michigan, and then my 2 kids, my daughter went to IU, and my son went to Purdue. So we have a house divided times 2.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so high school, you go to Michigan. When you leave high school, what are you thinking? What do you want to study? You're going into business?
Yeah.
Was something mom and dad were doing? What were you kind of doing in high school? Like, got you in Michigan?
Yeah, I was just trying to get a business degree so that I could go out and get to work.
Yeah.
Right? So I think, so we've had this conversation before. So one of my little calculated move before I graduated was I was trying to connect with a business person in the community that perhaps I could leverage to get a job. And so I reached out to, actually, this is going to make me sound like I don't know, a Playbook or something. The young lady that I dated in high school, her father worked for Merlin Hanson. He was the president of Merlin Hanson's company. And so I sent him a note and I said, hey, this is my junior year. I'm looking for an internship.
Yep.
To, get some experience and make sure that's not ran into a job. And so Dan Burns was his name. Dan called me back and he's like, I don't have an internship for you, but what I have is a 54-foot birch room that Merlin owns that needs to be cleaned every day.
Yep.
And I know it's not business, but you know, it'd be a job, right? And so I'm like, how many times are you going to get a chance to be on? I've never been on a boat that big. Sure. So I say yes. Yeah. I go back and I take care of this 54-foot Bertram for a summer, and I must have done a pretty good job. There's Merlin's like, I won't get you the job. He was on the board of First Source Bank, and he's like, I won't get you the job, but I'll get you an interview. Sure. So he got me an interview. I somehow convinced those guys to give me a job. And so ironically, I'm not sure I connected this dot with you the last time we talked, but so I got the job at First Source Bank as a corporate management trainee. And one of the other people that also took the job as a corporate management trainee is Fred Merritt. And Fred Merritt is my best friend. He was my best man at my wedding 31 years ago. I was the best man at his wedding in 11 or 12 years ago now. Small world. Yep. And so we've been great friends for 36 years. Yeah. And Fred was the reason I came to Indianapolis the first time. Okay. Just because I worked for a small company that it didn't matter where I lived. I had territory. My territory was the United States. Okay. And so we were in Iowa at the time. That was move number probably 5 at that point. And so we moved to Indianapolis to get closer to home. And we're like, it's either Indianapolis or Chicago. We chose Indianapolis because Fred was here. Yeah, for me. Yeah, and it turned out to be great.
So you think about that, you kind of playboy-ish. You called your high school girlfriend his their father. I have a pretty good relationship with him, so not dating his daughter anymore, but had a good relationship with him. Okay, but so you pick up the phone, you call him and say, hey, he needs some help. When you think about making that call to him, was someone coaching you to say, hey, go make some relationships in the business world? Was that just you? Why him?
I guess so I got to know Dan pretty well. Ironically, the woman's name was Jill. But, that's right. You guys know that. So when but Jill and I didn't stay very long. We probably dated 2 or 3 months or 6 months or something. It was short. But we built up a rapport, and I knew that, and probably even during those times, we had exchanged sort of business conversations. Yep. And so I just knew that at the time that if I was going to get somewhere, I had to like build relationships with people that mattered. Yep. Right. Or that could get me further faster. Yeah. It's probably worth saying I love both of my parents, but unfortunately both of them are gone now. My dad was a tool and die maker for 35 years. Right. And my mom worked at the school. Okay. And so, sadly, what I said during their eulogies were, my father was never sick a day in his life. Okay. So what I learned is you get up and go to work every day. Yep. Right. And my mom, everything was always positive. Yeah. Right. So you left with a smile on your face every morning. And so those are the kinds of things that propelled me to where I am now. That's awesome. But it was always, I knew that on the business side, I was probably going to have to do it myself. Yeah. Do it myself, build relationships, sure, and sort of figure it out.
Okay. All right. So you go to Big Blue. Yeah. What do you study?
What were you? Economics and German.
Okay. Economics and German.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
So I couldn't handle the calculus that I needed to be able to do to get into business school. Okay. So I chose economics for math. Yeah. Right? And then my father actually came to the United States when he was 13. So I'm just first generation. And he got on my dad's side, and they were German. Yep. Okay. And so I had an ear for German, an eye for German. I don't know if I had an eye, but I had an ear for German for sure. Yep. And so I loved the language. And so I'm like, okay, if my parents are going to pay for my college education, I should just get 2 degrees instead of 1. Okay. So I got 2. I think I was mixed in Germany. All right. It was great.
So girlfriend, short period of time, her dad is on the board of First Source. He gets you an interview.
Yeah.
Somehow you were able to get through that and get into that role. So what are you doing in that first role?
Yeah, I am literally rotating through the bank, all of the departments. Okay. It was a fabulous job. I mean, I got to see every facet of the bank, including operations where back in the day, I just saw this on a TV show the other day. It's like, back to when. You remember microencoding checks? Yeah. So there was a proof department, in this low nondescript building with no windows where people would code checks all day and then they would send it through the computer. Yeah. And then they would do the math between banks, right? Then all those checks had to be delivered. Sure. It was something. Now that, we take pictures of our checks. Yeah, of course, yeah, it's done. I think about the proof department every time I take a picture of my check. I was like, that used to be a person, right, doing real work. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a picture, and you're all, it's a picture.
So you float around the bank. I get a chance to see all the different areas. Once you've done that, where do you land, or what do you do?
Yeah, so I ended up as a commercial loan analyst, and then I got promoted into commercial loans. And at that time I'm 3 years in, probably 4 years in, and the gentleman that was running commercial banking, he seemed old to me at the time. I won't name his name, right? He seemed old to me at the time. And it turns out he only retired like 5 years ago. Okay. And so now maybe it was 10 years ago, but it was obvious that nobody was going anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Now, what I didn't know, maybe this will be a little pearl for people that are listening. What I didn't know at the time, and what I didn't appreciate, is that one of the paths for loan officers were that when they took care of their customers, then there were opportunities to go work for those companies and or take over those companies. And in fact, that's what Fred Merrick did. Oh no, Fred Merrick banked the company that he bought back in, it's probably 25 years ago. Yeah. Okay. And so I didn't see that as a pathway. I saw banking as a banking. Sure. But you go be a bank loan officer, get to know your customers, take good care of your customers, they build trust. And then there are exit opportunities because obviously there are no heirs or whatever, of course. Yeah. And so it is a path to business ownership, which I believe that's the true path.
Right. Yeah. We talked about that before. Right?
Yeah. So interesting. So I had the path and I missed it, which is okay. Right. Because, then I went on to do more interesting things.
Of course. But in that role, is there a reason? Would you have ever found that out, or was there just not an opportunity for others that were talking about those things?
Yeah, I think what it was is I probably wasn't there long enough.
Okay.
It was one of those cases where I was probably impatient. I wanted to move on.
Yep.
And I didn't feel like I was moving. As opposed to if I'd had some patience, I might have actually seen it happen. I see, right? And then like, oh, okay, no, that's where this can go.
Now, the rest of the story is I probably didn't even know then that was important.
Right. Those are things that are not obvious to you at 25 years. That's right. Yeah. Right. So what I do is that my paycheck wasn't very big, and I wanted to go make my paycheck bigger.
Yeah. Okay. So you want a bigger paycheck.
Yeah.
You 25, right?
Yeah.
All right. So 5. What comes next? Where do you go?
So I convinced a district manager with Johnson & Johnson to hire me as a sales rep. Okay. And I got to him through my neighbor got married. Okay. My other neighbor worked for J&J. Right. I think he just retired, which is a little bit nutty. That's 36. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, if you want to, I'll send your resume to Doug Burkhart, I think is his name. And Doug came down and interviewed me. Now, what I know after the fact is because I became a district manager at J&J as well, like 6 years later.
Okay.
I was probably a dream for Doug Lockhart because assuming I passed the test, one of the things that I said to him is I'll go anywhere. Okay. And so, when you're trying to fill a district with people, most people don't want to move.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you find somebody, a good candidate, and they'll say they'll go anywhere, I'm like, okay, I'll go anywhere.
Yep.
So he signed me to Jackson, Michigan. Okay. So my territory was Jackson, Michigan. Gosh. And that move to Jackson led to Jill, my wife.
Okay.
Because when I got to Jackson, I had to get my hair cut. Okay. Again, I'm going to show my hopefully, maybe old guys in the listen to this. Okay. So I got to Jackson, had to get my hair cut.
Yep.
I went to the Yellow Pages.
Oh my God.
And I was three out of the phone book. Okay. Because I'm like, I needed a haircut. I was going to a wedding. Called the first two, and they wanted $20 back in 1989 for a haircut. I'm like, that's $20. I'm not paying $20. That's ridiculous. So the third one I called was Rennie's place. And Rennie's like, you'll be $15 the first time, but if you come back again, if you're a repeat, it'll be $12. I'm like, good. Can I come in tomorrow or the next day? Yeah. She's like, sure, come on. So I went in. Long story short, she was like, hey, that's somebody you should meet. I'm like, I don't know, hairdresser in Jackson. Yeah, I'm not sure that person got my taste. Right? No, it's a much longer story, and if somebody wants to hear the story, we can, buy you a beer. Long story short, I meet her. We get put together the same place at the same time. Through fate, I had to go. I come in a day early. She's actually going on to Acapulco with her boyfriend at the time, and she comes in early to get her hair done. Maybe that was March 23rd, 1993, not just 93. Okay, March 23rd. So, so that's so the move to J&J away from First Sport. Yeah, First Sports Bank led to my win.
Yeah, but so that next jump, right? You go into sales.
Yep.
You'd been in banking.
Yep.
Working where you were doing sales.
Well, I mean, the banking is it's kind of sales. We got to convince people, but I wasn't in the core of selling.
Okay.
My belief was I could go make more money salesy.
So the thought was, if I get into a sales role, I'm going to be able to get into a commission environment or bonus environment, can make more of those things.
Gosh.
So you get into J&J, you're up in Michigan. That rolls for how long for you?
So that role, I was in Jackson 3 years.
Okay.
And then I got promoted to hospital rep, which was in Chicago, and that was an awesome time. We just got married and we moved to Chicago, lived it up, double income, no kids. And then the next job was district manager in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So we went from Chicago to Iowa.
Yeah.
That was a big move. And that was a little hard.
Yeah, he's completely different guy.
Yeah, going from buzzing. And then we had my daughter in Iowa.
Okay.
And so the hard part about that job was as a sales rep, when you're riding with your boss, if your boss shows up at 10 o'clock in the morning, then suddenly the sales rep thinks that your day starts at 10.
Right.
And if your boss leaves at 3 p.m. to get home for dinner, you think your day ends at 3. So what would I do? I would show up. I would leave my house at 5 a.m. and get to my sales rep's territory at 8.
Yep.
And then get home. And then it was typically a 2-day session. So you'd be there for 2 days. And the second day, I leave at 5.
Yep.
And get home at 8. And that was great, except Jill's at home with a newborn.
Yeah.
And it got a little tough.
Yeah.
So I asked my district manager if I could move out of Iowa and I said, Indianapolis, somewhere in the Midwest, just give me closer to home, get just closer to family. And she's like, no, you're good. No, we want you here. You're stuck. So I started looking for a job, went to work for a small software company. I really was trying to, so pharma's not really selling. It's really a lot less selling today because you can't do most of the stuff that we did. I did all kinds of fun things for my physicians. You can't do any of that today. You have to buy the book and insurance and all that stuff. It was a lot more fun back then. But so I left because I wanted to get real signatures on real paper because you're not getting real signatures. So I went to work for a medical billing software company, headquartered in Cedar Rapids, but he's like, you can move. I'll move you to Indianapolis if you want. Okay. So I stayed in Iowa probably another 2 years. And the irony is that the district collapsed after I left. They started to shrink. They had overexpanded and they shrank. And so the DM that replaced me actually left Iowa before I did. Okay. Probably another good example of lack of patience, right? If I'd just been a little bit more patient.
Yeah.
So we moved to Indianapolis, billing software. It was a good job learning. It was learning a technology job. But when I moved to Indianapolis, probably the most important part of the Indianapolis move was I came to Indianapolis, didn't really know anybody except Fred. And I was trying to plug into the technology community. And so I'm searching, the internet existed at that point. And so I'm searching and I see this organization called the Association of Internet Professionals. I'm like, oh, it looks interesting. So $100 to join the AIP. And the $100 at that time was I had to make a decision. It was a lot of money. Well, and so the general systems design job was not a particularly rewarding one financially. Gotcha. Okay. So $100 would be on my hand. I hope this is worth it. Yeah. Okay. So I hit the button. I show up to the first meeting and two of the guys there are John Qualls and Pat O'Day. And that turned out to be my two of my co-founders, full out blue lock, right? So, but that didn't happen for another 5 or 6 years.
right? I didn't know that you met them that early. It took that long before you guys actually came all together. So I didn't realize you were also in Indy for that long. Yeah, before you got into Blue Lock.
Yep. So 99 is when we moved to Indianapolis the first time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I wanted a house with a fireplace because of Y2K. If the lights went out, I wanted to be able to heat the house. So that's kind of a random weird thought. That's right. So I met John and Pat, and there were others. I don't know if you remember Neil Berman.
I remember the name.
So Neil Berman started a company called Delivra, and Delivra now is like Delivra and Exact Target started about the same time, but Neil was really intentional. He's like, okay, this is never going to be more than a 3-person company. And then it became a 4-person or 5-person, 10-person or 12, right? So we had very intentional about how he was growing. And then he sold it.
Yep.
And did really well for himself, but he built this great company. He was in the Association of Internet Professionals. There are probably half a dozen other people. I still have the file folder with all the cards clipped to it. No kidding. So I got to know John and Pat. And John much better than Pat, but the company that I worked for then at the time, I left this small software company and I went to work for a company called IMS Health. And IMS was pharma data and consulting for pharmaceutical companies. It's a huge company. It's a $3 billion company now called IQVIA. But back then, if you were in pharma, you had no idea who this company was. But if you were in pharma, every single pharmaceutical company in the world does business with IMS.
Okay. All right.
Because they own the data. Sales data, prescription data, all of that. So, of course, I'd used IMS as a sales rep at J&J.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I knew them. And coincidentally, they were looking for someone local in Indianapolis to take care of Lily. Right? So I run the gauntlet. I interviewed. They took a chance on me, right? And so I show up. I get the job. I show up on the first day. They're doing client satisfaction surveys. And long story short, Lily gets a score of 13 out of 100, which was the lowest client satisfaction score in the entire IMS community, right? And but their chief complaint was the account team that handled IMS was remote.
Yep.
Right. So the account director was in Chicago. The 2 account managers, one was in Philly and one was in Northern Indiana.
Gotcha.
Okay. And they felt neglected. Yeah. Okay. So I got there and they're like, I can't remember. The reaction was, okay, we'll see, we'll see what's going on. And so anyway, long story short, I hire a couple of great guys. Over the time, I probably hired 4 or 5 and lost a couple. But the two guys that I ended up with, Jared Irving, Chris Cochran, we took that from the lowest client sat to the highest client sat. Bodo Kin in a company in 4 years.
Wow.
And then, so when I left 4 years later I moved east to Philadelphia to take a different job. Our client sat score was 88 out of 100.
Wow.
And the account had grown, I don't know, probably, it probably more than doubled. No kidding.
Yeah.
So, it was just, you get in there and take care of them.
Sure.
Yep. It worked out. So I went east, did consulting, business development. I ran business development for consulting and services for a couple of years. And it was okay, but it wasn't great. And so I'm like, okay, we're thinking about going back to the Midwest. Jill didn't really like Philly the first year, and then unfortunately the second year she really liked Philly. And okay, it's sort of an East Coast dynamic where if you're not in the family, you're not in the family. But once you're in the family, then you're in the family. Okay, and just took her a year to sort of break in, and so it was sort of the in between phase there. And so I called John, or I sent John a note. Yells. I'm like, hey, we're thinking about coming back to the Midwest. Keep your eyes open. And he called me like an hour later. He's like, listen, we're going to go start this company. It's going to be, he didn't call it cloud computing at the time, right? He's right. I had 6. Okay. And so he's like, we're going to go start this infrastructure as a service company. And you should come check it out. So I went back. I spent the day with those guys. I mean, talk about trust.
Yeah.
Because that business was so early.
Wow.
I took it on faith that these guys, but the progression that they were describing made sense.
And this is 06, right?
This is 06. They had spent a lot of time in co-location. So they were spending a lot of time on power cooling, managing networks and all that stuff. And so they could sort of see the future.
Okay.
So we came back, we started Blue Lock. I say our claim to fame at Blue Lock really was we invented infrastructure as a service.
Okay.
And Blue Lock started the exact same day or the exact same month of the year as Amazon Web Services. So at a point in time, no kidding, Blue Lock and Amazon Web Services revenue was exactly the right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started out, and Pat O'Day, our CTO, didn't actually write, or he wrote the first entry in Wikipedia for infrastructure as a service. No kidding. That's how we claim that we invented infrastructure as a service. Now, if you go look at Wikipedia today, you won't find it because there are literally probably millions of versions of this culture, but he's got it captured somewhere. He doesn't use it, but I actually also, this will date us, I actually also registered Father Cloud as his Twitter handle.
You're kidding.
Okay. He never used it. I had no idea if it's even still here. You did originally, but originally he was Father Cloud. And let's see what else. What was the third? I guess those are the third thing. Maybe the last story I'll tell you about Blue Lock is fast forward, let's see, 2006, maybe 2010, 2011. We actually made the Magic Quadrant, and we made the Leaders Quadrant in the Magic Quadrant. No kidding. Okay. I don't know if I could swear on this podcast. Okay. Yep. But evidently, so there was Amazon Web Services, and then Blue Lock was closer to the X. Yep. Right. And so evidently the guy running Amazon Web Services at the time, might have been Andy Jassy, but probably somebody else. He sent a note to his team, and he said, "Congratulations on making the Magic Quadrant, or the Leaders Magic Quadrant." Yep. And who the fuck it just blew off. Right. Yeah. So we made the Magic Quadrant. I mean, we had a great run at Blue Lock. Yeah. And then in 2014, I got fired for Blue Lock. Right. Yep. So they said I had a bad attitude. I don't know. Maybe it was as much about the founders had sort of gotten set to the side. Yep. Right. They didn't really care what we thought anymore. And maybe I did have a little bit of a bad attitude. I was 8.5 years in, and yeah, we had sort of leveled off. Yep. Right. And so.
But this is the first time though in your career where you'd made changes, you've been different places. Yeah, and it was maybe to make a change, get into sales, get into an organization, grow your career. This is the first time somebody came to you and said, "Hey, we don't want you to be here." Yeah, right. We want you to go somewhere else. Yeah, right. So that sinks in.
Yeah.
And then
so it's an awful feeling, by the way.
Yeah, I we've talked about that before, but when that happens, yeah. What'd you do next? How did you imagine maybe call your buddy? It was in your wedding, and call some friend. And so what'd you do during that?
Yeah. So, it's a good question. There were a couple of different things. People talk about how when you get a new start, when you get a fresh start, the world's your oyster. You can do anything you want. I think that's a little bit Pollyannish. Okay. Because at the end of the day, I got 2 kids, wife. Yeah. Or you have responsibility. I had to feed my kids.
Yep.
And I did have a severance, so it wasn't like chunk me off. So I had a little bit of time, but the classic is you start to tap your network. Yeah, right. And one of the guys that I tapped actually was connected to Purdue, and so he put me in touch with Purdue, and I ended up working a couple of days a week for a year at the Purdue Foundry. And so that was their accelerator. That was I think the year after Mitch Daniels had gotten to Purdue.
Okay.
And Mitch grabs a guy from Lilly named Van Hassler. And those guys, Mitch was like, "Listen, this technology is wasting, it's collecting dust on the shelf. Yeah. Dan and the foundation try and find a way to get it off the shelf and get it into the world." Right? Because before that, tech transfer from Purdue was really hard. Negotiations, this, that, yeah, it was just hard.
Yeah.
And so Dan gets in there. I'm sure there were lots of other people in line, but Dan gets in there, and Dan is like, "Okay, we're going to streamline this process. It's a 2-page document. These are the rules. If you want some Purdue technology to go try and commercialize it, here it is."
Okay.
And then the Foundry was really set up to help people build businesses.
Yep.
So you get a scientist that's going to take some of the technology off the shelf and then go try and build a business. And most of these scientists were scientists. They didn't have a lot of business experience. And so I show up with the business experience to try and help these scientists or the academics try and figure out how to make it go. And it was really fun because all the skills that I built over that time, particularly at Blue Lock, it fit perfectly, of course, right? What's the market? How do you price it? What's the go-to-market? Sales, marketing, all those things. Yeah. And so that job was really rejuvenating for me because I was in a space where people appreciated my skills, of course, my experience. Yeah. Right. And so I had a lot of fun with that. Did that for a year. And one of the other gigs that I took to pay the bills was I was doing some consulting, and one of the companies I consulted for was Parker. No kidding. And so in 2015, Parker had just relaunched itself as Parker Technology, and they built a cloud-based application, which was really forward-thinking at that time. Yeah. So Mark Pratt, Harry Griffith, Jeff Line, all of those guys had really, Scott Gould, I should mention Scott, of course, really had vision, foresight to put what they had in the cloud because it made it much more connectable in the garages as job sorts things went forward. So they relaunched the business. They needed a sales guy at a conference, at a show. Okay. So they like, you want to go work a show? And I'm like, sure. At the time, I should, if I'm naming names, I should mention James Burns too, is James and I were sort of trying to do something together in a business way. And so he's the one that ultimately got me Parker. Yep. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go work booth. So I go work this booth, and the technology works. It's cool. There was lots of interest. I came back with lots of cards, and we get back on Monday morning. And I'm like, okay, here are all the leads. Who's going to work the leads? They're like, what? You work leads. I'm like, all right, okay. I'm a sales guy. I work with you. Yeah. So I started working the leads. We start to have a little success. I go to the next show with them. More leads, more success. Next show, more leads, more success. And then in the fall, Perry calls me, my boss, Jeremy of Denison, and he says, what do you think about coming to work for Parker full time? And I'm like, well, I don't know. It seems like we've got something going. Yeah, people like it. Seems to work. Let me take a week or so, a couple weeks. I'll write a business plan, and I'll come back. I'll present it to the board. Yep. Tell you what we need. And if you guys like the plan, then you can hire me, and off we go. It's awesome. So I wrote a business plan, and I told them I needed some capital. They approved it. And on January, I think it's the 21st, 2016, I took over as president. No kidding. Yeah. And so from being called to go run some shows, yeah, do a little sales. What was the timeline between being president? What was it, a year? Yeah. So it was March to January. Okay. Right. So I got some experience, got my feet wet, and, at the time, it's a new business, right? So for you, it's a new business. It's technology focus. Yeah. Right. But when people think about parking, so this is a great opportunity to talk about Parker technology. And then the things that we do or that the market sees as our product, is it actually all the stuff that we really do? Yeah. So Parker, tell me more. What's Parker? Yeah. So the most straightforward way to explain it is that everybody thinks parking's simple, right? You pull a ticket, you pay for parking. How complicated could it be? Well, nothing could be more complicated. Okay. And this is how I explain it to people. I'm like, okay, so if you have a job in an office downtown, yeah, okay, you go to the office and you strike your card to go in or to read your license plate, you are a monthly parker. Okay. If you leave the garage, it goes up at lunch, but you go across town, park in another garage, and you have to pull a ticket because you don't have access to that garage. Yeah. And you pay, you come out, you're a transient parker. Okay. Okay. And then you decide to go to the Pacer game that night. So you go, you park in the garage, and now you're an event parker. Okay. Okay. So one person was 3 types of parking in a 9 or a 10-hour space. Yeah. And so parking operators have to make sure they got inventory for monthly parkers and transient and event parkers, and they got to manage all of that to make sure that they've got the inventory, those assets are clean. It's even more complicated than that. Sure. But then they've got to decide what kind of technology they want in their garages. They got to make sure that oh boy, they kind of make sure they're what's the word I'm thinking for? Like reconciling, like I said, right? So if you don't pay for your monthly parking, but you've got access, how do I shut you off? How do I shut you off? And it's churning all the time, right? There's just a lot going on. Sure. And so one of the things that happened 20 years ago, you pull into a parking garage and you come out to pay, you would hand your ticket to a human.
Right.
Right.
And that human would say $6. You'd hand them $6.
Yeah. And they would raise the gate for you. Oh, yeah. 20 years ago, they put a machine there.
Yep.
Okay. And on that machine, there's a credit card reader and a help button.
Yep.
Okay. Nobody ever expected the help button to get pressed.
Right. They figured, why would you need it? Then just pay, it goes, no problem, right?
Machine never breaks.
Right. No problem.
Right. So machine. Yeah. We know that somebody presses help button 85 million times a year in the United States. 85 million. You've told me that before. I've wrote that. For the last time you told me 85 billion times. That's a lot of times people hit a button to say, I need help. Yeah. Okay. And only 15% is it because the machine breaks. 60%, 85%, 60 million times a year.
Yeah.
They're pressing the help button either because they're confused.
Yep.
They're trying to get free parking and they're trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. They forgot their Prox car, right? There's just a million reasons. Yeah. But the 85% of the time somebody pushes the button, it's their fault or their confusion. It's not the machine's fault.
Right.
But the industry didn't anticipate that.
Yeah.
And so they really never built infrastructure to catch help calls.
So I go out and I build these parking garages where I have the lots. Yeah. Somebody hits a button. That call used to go to the people who own the lot. We got a garage, cell phone. Now they're being over garage line. I need help.
Yeah.
And they're saying, I can't take these calls.
Yeah. Okay. Or they don't want to take those calls because they're having dinner. I can remember one time, funny story. So we're in Vegas for a show. Okay. And we take these prospects to dinner and one of the prospects had his cell phone with him.
Yep.
And in the middle of dinner, he's picking up his phone. Okay. I actually take a picture of it. Oh yeah, it's awesome. And I'm like, and then he puts it down. I'm like, hey Nick, who was that? He's like, yeah, somebody in the garage tried to get out. And I'm like, okay. And then about half an hour later, he picks up his phone again. I take a picture of, right? He puts it down. Hey, Nick, who was that? Somebody tried to get out of the garage. And, if you were using Parker, you could have dinner and you join the conversation and never have to worry about it. And provide wonderful customer service, customer experience. And more importantly, what he probably did is he probably pushed 5 button and let him out. Okay. Yeah. Right. Because he's trying to get him off the phone. Of course.
Okay. Let's get him out. Just get him off them.
Yep. Well, that's $10 that just left.
Yep.
That's about collect.
Yep.
Okay. Our job is to collect revenue and make the gate go up because they paid.
Right.
Right. Now, if it's a hospital or if it's a facility where customer service is more important,
yeah,
they could tell us to put a white touch on it and let them out. But the software that we built behind the scenes puts the rules of every garage at the fingertips.
Yep.
Of a CSR. And so they know how to treat that customer. They know we've actually got it classified light, easy, or easy, medium, or hard.
Yep.
They know right away that they have to try harder. Like, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir. I can't let you out. You say you don't have any money, then you're going to have to call somebody who does have money. We actually had technology built where they could send a text to their mom or dad or a spouse.
Yep.
They could pay remotely. They don't have to be anywhere close. We get a confirmation that,
we let them out.
Right? So really, there's the parking garages, right? But Parker technology isn't working. You're not building garages or don't do garages. You actually have software that's running the garages, and you've got people here and also in Las Vegas and Vegas as well. Sit in a call center.
Yeah.
But they're there 24 hours a day.
24/7.
We never close. Never close. Somebody hits a button.
Yeah.
Opens up a line, hello, and they answer as the parking person's attendant, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got that in there. That business, but it started here in Indy. How had you end up in Vegas? What was the...
Yeah, so the first year we grew 100%. The second year we grew 85. The third year we grew to 60.
Okay.
And then COVID hit.
Right, yeah.
So we grew 15% through COVID.
Wow.
Because the parking operators could put their gates down, send their people home, or lay them off more accurately, right? Because the park operator's revenue went to zero, of course. So it did quite good at zero because they had monthly parkers and all of that, but it plummeted, yeah. And so we built our product to be able to sort of turn that down, so they could pay us for 20 calls a month.
Yeah,
that's all they were getting. They were happy to pay us, $150 a month
right? Just so they keep the gates down, keep everybody else out.
Yep.
And help the customers that were there parking. And so we took good share in 2020.
Wow.
And then in 2021, we grew 70%.
Jeez.
Because everything took off, and that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've had a good little, well, it'll be 10 years in January.
Yeah. Right. This is the longest at any job. No kidding. This is the longest you've been anywhere. This is the longest I've been. So president for 10 years, grown into Vegas. The technology, has it changed over the last 10 years? Have you guys, anything, I mean, obviously I know it's a call center, but what other tech are you guys using in the space?
Well, I think, so the biggest thing is that the app that we built has evolved. I think we're on version 5 now. Okay. So obviously it's just like anything, it's got to evolve. Yep. Right. And the second, probably the biggest thing that we've done, well, I didn't even talk about sort of the magic hook that we have, which is two-way video. So if anybody sees two-way video anywhere in the United States, it doesn't matter who's using it, because we let our customers use it in their call centers if they want. They license the software. But if you see two-way video, if you can see that CSR in Vegas, in Florida, in Minneapolis, in New York, that is Parker technology. That's under the covers because we have patents on two-way.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right?
That's cool.
So that's been a big piece of sort of the evolution. And then the other big thing that we're doing, probably a couple of different things, but the other big thing is we're building connectivity to the parking equipment, okay, via APIs.
Yep.
So that we can do different things. Like when that customer comes to the gate, when a parking customer comes to the gate and they say, the machine's not working. Like first we'll ask them what the machine says, but then we can also like see the state of the machine, through the APIs. Okay. So we can actually push rates to them. We can do different things by manipulating the software on the other side. That's been a big piece of what we do today.
Yeah.
And then of course the next evolution, everybody, the AI is going crazy.
Yep.
Right. So our ability to leverage a machine, not just to take calls, calls will be the holy grail, but there's all kinds of things behind the scenes. Even if I could make a suggestion to the CSR, so if the machine can hear the call the same way that the CSR does, and it can get through the rules and the issues faster and say, okay, it sounds like this is the issue. It sounds like this is the resolution.
Yeah.
If I could cut, as it is, our calls are only 60 seconds long, but if I can cut 10 seconds off of that call, that would be a really big deal, right? So, because how many calls do you guys take in a year? So we take 200,000 calls a month.
200,000 calls a month, and they're a 60-second average. You find seconds anywhere, it adds up to a lot.
Yeah.
Right? So that's was going to go down that path with you with AI. People talk about, changing the way people do business, taking everybody's job. But as of right now, you're looking at it as a potential enhancer for those CSRs to take them from 60 seconds to 50 seconds. Are you starting down that journey? Where do we have?
So you have to build plumbing. I have a podcast myself. It's called Harder Than It Looks. And so I talk a lot about how AI is a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah.
You can't, everybody talks about training the models and all those things. At the end of the day, most of the AI today, it's going to change. And in 5 years or even 2 years, it'll be different, maybe even a year. You still have to give the AI guardrails.
Sure.
You have to sort of give it choices so that it can work through the choices.
Yeah.
And so the hard part will be, but I think we're in a good spot because we already have the rules.
Yeah.
We are, today we're telling the human what to do.
Yeah. You know what the rules are.
All right. Yeah. Yep. And that's part of the secret sauce of how we do things. We take our customers through a very detailed implementation process. In a lot of cases, some of these garages don't even know what their rules are because it's all institutional knowledge. No kidding, right? And so in some ways, we are making them document their operating procedures.
Yep.
Right? So when this happens, do that. When this happens, do that. Sometimes we stump them. We're like, sure, why would you ask that question? We're like, well, because in our experience, we got 1,400 facilities now.
Yep.
We've seen a few calls. We sort of know what to expect.
Yeah.
Right. So we can take them through that and then capture all of that as software.
Okay.
The big idea will be that eventually you connect the plumbing to these business rules. And then there will be some portion of those that the machine probably will be able to take.
Yep.
But the killer app for us really is it will still be the humans that person can tap out to, because we've all had this situation. Of course, we're like, operator, I want to talk to an operator. It's so complicated.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we'll we will set it up so that the machine can take the basic stuff, but there is still going to be people. You have to take the harder calls. Yeah, and that's actually the harder part. There are two guys in a garage right now, I guarantee you, trying to figure out how to make voice AI work in parking. Yep. What they won't have is they won't have the ability to kick those calls to another human.
That's right.
Because they've just built the machines. That's right. So we've got the humans. Now we're just trying to layer in the machine on top.
It's better customer service, right? You're giving the customer the best experience possible. For those where you can handle things quickly, it can be done with a bot or some kind of AI technology. It's great. People love it. Yeah. But the moment somebody goes, I need help.
Yeah.
The quicker the help gets there, the quicker it takes care of them. That's the best experience you can give.
Yeah.
And so, I always love these conversations because we talk about different businesses and we talk about AI and people think, Parker Technology. Okay, well, yeah, I'm pulling into a space and I give you $5 and I leave. But the tech is awesome.
Yeah.
All the human stuff behind it is cool, right? What you guys have built is awesome. So here, Indianapolis, it's another call center in Vegas. I wouldn't answer your question about starting this. So how did you know about there?
Yeah. So, the brainchild behind it is our COO, Tammy Baker. She is a rock star. We built the company on her back. And so we got to the point in Indianapolis where we were struggling to keep up with hiring.
Okay.
We couldn't find quality people. Believe it or not, it's a hard job.
Yeah.
And so, it's not, hey, if you can walk and talk and sign your name, chew gum.
Right.
Those people don't make it. And in fact, some of the people that we think will make it don't make it. It's hard. You're getting yelled at and you've got to have the right skills and all of that. And so we were starting to struggle a little bit to cope with the growth in Indianapolis. And so we started thinking about, okay, where could we put a call center that would make sense on a couple of different fronts? So the first one is it's 3 hours behind us at time is okay. So if you think about it, they come in at 9 a.m. and noon is a busy time, but it's beginning of their day. So and could get more of the work day and sort of get a day shift, right? First shift. The second thing is it's a service economy out there. Yeah. It runs 24/7. So our working theory is we could find people that would be willing to work funky hours, yeah, right, yeah, because it's already happening in Vegas, right? It's just normal. And then the third thing was it needs to be easy to get to, right? Okay. Yep. So I can get a direct flight to Las Vegas. Yep. And the hidden fourth one is Las Vegas, so I get to go out there and it's a quarter, and so that's kind of that's great. Yeah. So it worked out. Vegas is great. In fact, now Vegas is probably 2/3 the size of Indianapolis.
Oh wow!
So they're pretty close to being balanced. One of the cool things that we can do now that we weren't able to do is, think about this. If you're running 24/7, okay, I'm in company meetings, really hard. Yeah. Okay. Because the phones are still ringing. Yeah. So now, at least during the holidays, we can move the traffic to Vegas and the Indianapolis team could go on and have a holiday party. And then we could move the calls to Indianapolis and the Las Vegas team could actually have a holiday party, which is, you take those things for granted, right? Until you got enough scale on both sides, you're doing 24 hours a day. Sure. Yeah. It never closes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's a relentless build. It is a relentless build at business. And again, Baker's, she's the secret sauce.
Yeah, Tampa, she's awesome. Yeah, she is. You've got a star. I do have some. I star. I got to cover the
Yeah. So, because clearly it must be them, right? Yeah. But of course, that's all that. Yeah. It's always
10 years, a lot of growth. We could talk all day long, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the progression of your business, what you've done in sales. I know I've learned so many things over the years. We talked about green shoes before I put a post out about AI. But all of those things, thank you for sharing your story. Of course. Appreciate it. And so maybe before we quit, maybe just some fun stuff. So if you and your wife, Jill, are out having fun, what are you doing for fun?
Yeah, well, so I'm playing golf.
Yeah.
Okay. If she and I are together, we're going to the beach. We just got off the beach. We were on the beach for 7 days and then it got extended to 3 because we got SAG in the Caribbean. Don't ever sorry for me. Yeah. That was awesome. But if we're going to dinner or anything like that, we're going to South Broad Ripple to Mama Corolla's.
Okay.
Right. All right. That's our place. We go there for birthdays and all the kids' birthdays and a lot of birthdays. Yeah, it's good.
Good shot. Okay. Love that. And so, anything from you, I think we were just talking, was it last week, something like that? You guys were somewhere, always to be able to get in here. You were texting me from a boat. Yeah, so having some fun somewhere, right? So that's always great when you're texting from a boat. Yeah. So you guys get a chance, or are you on a boat every once in a while, friend with a boat?
Well, the irony is that I've been on 2 awesome boats in the last 2 months because of the same guy. Yeah. The first one it was his 60th birthday, and that was in the Bahamas. And then Steve Slobik's got an awesome boat in Puerto Rico.
So we always find that I'm trying. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I was sitting back home. It was like 20 degrees. We're axing. I'm like, yeah, that's just great. I'm slumming it here in Indy. I appreciate you more than you know. Business is awesome. Thank you for your time. Yeah, of course. And so thanks for sharing the story with us. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.